Hello Credo Club, I'm Daniel Orsen, a violist and Credite, and I'm here today to talk about Wagner. Not so much a specific recording that I love, although that's going to happen, but more as an exhortation for you to listen to Wagner, to immerse yourself in Wagner, to proactively put effort into listening to Wagner. You have to do it at least once in your life. Wagner's not for everybody, but you have to do it at least once, and the teenage years are a great time to do that, probably the best time to do that. I can speak for myself. C.S. Lewis can do it better than me. He writes about his Wagner teenage obsession in Surprised by Joy. Wagnerphilia has been a rite of passage for artists and philosophers of all stripes since Wagner's music dramas were written. And to engage with Wagner is to engage with the history and the cultural inheritance of the 19th and 20th centuries. Because Wagner embodied the struggles of the latter, of the 19th century, and had a massive effect on the trajectory of the 20th century, especially culturally, not just historically with the battles and all that, but on the cultural shifts and reception of Wagner. It's really, really very important. And above all, his music is awesome, which George Solti and the Vienna Philharmonic can prove better than anybody. What you're going to hear in a moment is an excerpt from Götterdämmerung. This is Siegfried's Funeral March, or at least a portion of the Funeral March. It might do a little bit of cutting around the corners there in the editing. So context here, Siegfried is the big hero. He has the sword and he kills a dragon and he gets the girl and he's supposed to save the world and stuff. But he's kind of an idiot, doesn't really understand how men work, and he ends up getting killed, murdered, stabbed in the back by his sort of kind of brother-in-law. It's a bit complicated. It's opera, you know. And this is the music right after Siegfried dies. It's awesome. So enjoy. a few observations, some quick takes here. One, George Solti is an absolute animal, a total savage on the podium. Two, at the beginning of this, you hear this bum, 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 rather soft pizzes in the bass and cello. And to me, this is something like a knife strike or the Siegfried's heartbeat giving out. And then a few minutes later, it's transformed into this triumphant bum, 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 bum. Just a great Wagnerian thing there, the transformation of the motif. Love it. And then right after that, there's a procession of themes, really heroic, noble themes, which are associated with Siegfried. And this is really last call at the bar for those themes. The last time we're going to hear them in their full glory, or almost the last time, in the the 17-hour epic or whatever it is of the Ring Cycle. It's a great moment, great moment. It's one of the cool spots. And this gets into our next thing. It's about how to get into Wagner, because Wagner is so big and so intimidating. And I have some recommendations on how you do that. So step one is to listen to cool spots. And you've already started doing step one. Listen to cool spots. A great way to do this, YouTube, Wagner Top 10, Wagner Great Moments, whatever. Just find things in Wagner which you love, which you get excited about, which make you want to listen to more. And going along with that is to start with the Ring Cycle. I recommend starting with the Ring Cycle. Other great operas, Tristan, Parsifal, Lohengrin, Tannhäuser. Parsifal is my personal favorite. I think it's his greatest piece. But definitely start with the Ring and go look for cool spots. Listen to those, fall in love with those. All right, so step two, find an online synopsis. I'll find a link. I'll try to find a link. The one that I used when I was a teenager, I don't think it's there anymore, but an online synopsis which has the leitmotifs interspersed with the synopsis. So a leitmotif, that's a theme, a musical theme, associated with a character, an object, an idea, an emotion. And Wagner uses the system of leitmotifs to build his operas. And the leitmotifs in Wagner grow organically out of one another, have relationships to one another. They can overlap and pretty cool counterpoint with one another. And so getting a sense of how the leitmotifs work and what they are, what they stand for, is really important. And a synopsis like that can help a tremendous amount with that. Okay, so step three, listening, preferably live, to a full opera. If you're going with the Ring, maybe start with Rheingold, but hey, it's okay to jump in with Wagner or Valkyrie or Siegfried. It's okay. Or watch online a performance, a videotape performance, not just a recording. Recordings are great, but you really want to be able to see what's going on stage and see the text there translated. And seek out a traditional production. Now this is really important because Wagner dictated the staging of his operas. He wrote the text. Of course, he wrote the music. He had an opera house built just for the performances of his operas. He had instruments made, including special kinds of violas. He had lots of other brass instruments and woodwind instruments made just for the performance of his operas. And all of these things are supposed to be tied together. There's a word Wagner used, Gesamtkunstwerk, which means total artwork. Every single aspect of the production was directed, working together towards Wagner's artistic idea. And there are a lot of productions, more modern 20th century productions, where the stage director just superimposes his idea, whether it's set in outer space or it's about communism or capitalism, but just throws his idea on there, and his thing is worse than Wagner's thing, frankly, and kind of gets in the way. And you want something that doesn't get in the way and actually works with the music, so you got to find a traditional production. Okay, so let's listen to another cool spot. This is from the end of Valkyrie. This is the second opera of the Ring Cycle, and what's going on here? Sieglinde is Siegfried's mother. Siegfried's not born yet. Now Brunhilde is this warrior Valkyrie, and she's telling Sieglinde that she is pregnant, that she is with child. The child is Siegfried. He's a great hero who is going to save the world. And this is where you first hear Siegfried's theme while Brunhilde's saying that. So that is a great musical moment in and of itself. And after that, Sieglinde has this this moment. It's a leitmotif that's only heard twice. It's incredibly important, and it's only heard twice. Here in Valkyrie, and at the very end of Götterdämmerung. And some names that are given to this motive are the redemption motive, or the redemption through love, or something like that, of that nature. And I wanted to point this out, bring it to your attention right now, because it's only heard twice. It's something you got to know when you're digging into Wagner and when you're digging into the Rings. It's a great moment. And actually, Leonard Bernstein stole this. He stole the motive in West Side Story. At the end of West Side Story, it's not a part that's excerpted ever, but there is a moment where I think it's Maria. Yes, she's saying something like "I had a love," straight out of Wagner, straight out of Wagner. So, talking about cultural inheritance. All right. So this is that good bit from the end of Valkyrie. This is, by the way, really good Met production from the 90s. I do recommend it. And the late, great Jesse Norman as Sieglinde, #1 Sieglinde. All right, here we go. This is step 3 or 4, or whatever it is, of how you dig into Wagner. Some advice on that. There are lots of different layers, lots of different ways into Wagner's operas. It's been said that the only 2 humans in history to have more words written about them than Wagner are Jesus and Napoleon. And I'd say close to half of the words written about Wagner were written by Wagner himself. His prose output is staggering. His autobiography is in 4 volumes. And then that's not including all the essays and things he wrote, and the texts of his operas, which are quite significant unto themselves. So you could read Wagner's own writing about Wagner. That is a great thing to read. I got a few other things here on the list. Friedrich Nietzsche, The Birth of Tragedy. This is a young Nietzsche's love letter to Wagner. Also really insightful, thoughtful, philosophy about art and music itself. I love it. And this is the case of Wagner. This is old, bitter, kind of unhinged Nietzsche's polemical attack on Wagner. He didn't like what Wagner turned into, and he also changed himself. And it's an absolutely entertaining read. I really, really gangbusters. Lots of fun. Highly recommend. Highly recommend. Nietzsche. Okay. And then continuing with the philosophy theme, we got a fellow named Roger Scruton, who passed away last year. This book on Parsifal was published posthumously, just over a year and a half out. But Scruton also wrote books on The Ring and on Tristan. And his angle is more on the text and on the philosophy, but he writes beautifully about the music and how those all interconnect. And Scruton's a solid philosopher. And this book is especially great because one of the major themes of Scruton's work was kind of about using art as a substitute for religion, specifically for Christianity. And Parsifal is also. I don't really want to dig too much into that. Okay, so here's another one. I haven't read it yet, but recommended on Amazon, called Being Wagner, just a relatively slim biography of Wagner. I would also recommend to that end a lecture series by Robert Greenberg with the Great Teaching Company. Robert Greenberg, great music history guy for anybody, any era, any composer. That his lectures on Wagner and Wagner's music really phenomenal. And that's a nice way in. And here we got a new release by Alex Ross, a New Yorker music writer, Wagnerism, Art and Politics in the Shadow of Music. Probably a good book. Haven't opened it yet, but Alex Ross is worth reading. So that's this kind of gives you an idea of what there is out there and how you can dig into Wagner. Super rewarding, super rewarding. So have a lot of fun listening.